Today's topic, falling out of the raft. Hi, I'm Doug Holt with author of Your Own Story, and this is your Daily Growth Hack, where each day we give you a tip, trick, or insight to help you up-level what we call the 5 to Thrive. That is your mind, your body, your soul, your relationships, and your business. So just yesterday, my brother and his family and I decided to go whitewater rafting. They're visiting my wife and my son and I here in Central Oregon. We decided to be a great excursion, and it was. Now, we got to the destination at the foot of the river, and we met our river guides. And there they went through the typical safety check, telling us exactly what to expect and what we could be doing. Now, most of this float was gentle, class 1 to 2 rapids, so nothing really to worry about. But nonetheless, you're still going down a wild river. And as we were going down the second part of the river, we hit a set of rapids that didn't look too daunting. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we hit a rock. And we hit the rock, I fell back. My nephew fell into my lap, and my brother popped out into the water. Now, we were still going down the rapids, and he was caught in an eddy. So we were probably a good 30 or 40 feet away from him. We tried to stick out a paddle to give him a hand, but it just couldn't happen. Now, his family was worried, but of course, I'm his sibling, so I was laughing. I knew he would be safe, but I also was happy my brother fell out. On top of that, a second thing happened. As he was floating down, we caught up to him. He put his head up, his chest out, his feet were up. He did everything he was instructed to do by the guides through the safety check. He got to the raft, we pulled him in, asked him how he was doing. He said, fine. And one thing he said was really interesting. He said, I didn't panic at all. And the reason I didn't panic is because I decided earlier in the trip to jump into the water. So what happened was earlier, the guides asked everybody when we stopped, they said, hey, look, if you want to jump in and float down, you can. Now, this is the second coldest river in Oregon, and it was cold. And only a few of us actually jumped in the water. And yes, it was a shock. But once we were in the water, we started to acclimatize really quickly. And that shock started to wear off. And then we safely swam back to our boats, and then we continued our journey. And what my brother said is, geez, had I not done that and I fell into the river and not actually experienced beforehand the level of cold, I probably would have panicked. But since I had already been in the water, since I had already been in that cold, I didn't panic at all and instantly remembered exactly what the guide said. Chest out, legs up, head above water. And I just floated down through the rapids. And I started thinking to myself, wow, that's really interesting. See, he could easily have panicked, and most people do. And people put their feet down because they think, hey, I could stand up here. Because it's cold, I want to get up and out as soon as possible. And that causes a thing called foot entrapment. And foot entrapment is the most dangerous thing on the river because your feet can get trapped and the current is taking you down and you can actually fall, go face first and get stuck right in the water. But it didn't happen to my brother because he had already experienced the coldness of the water and was able to think clearly. Also, today I was on a coaching call with another coach, and he was telling me about a client of his, a 7-figure business earner who lost everything and now was building it back up. And one of the things that struck me was, that business owner had already experienced both the gain of that 7-figure business, but also the loss. And so he'd experienced it, so he knows what to expect down the way and can do it at a much calmer pace. And I also thought, this also reminds me of people in the fitness industry who are constantly working to better their bodies, the way they look, the way they feel. And they'd actually already done some of the work and have already had that experience. They've already failed multiple times, and therefore they don't fear the actual failure itself. So I'm asking you today, in your 5 to Thrive, where have you been falling into the river? Where have you been tossed out of the raft? And you're okay because you know what? In the past, you've already been in the water. You know what that experience is like. And then what I really want you to think about is where in that 5 to Thrive are you scared that you're going to get tossed out because you don't know what to expect? That's where the lesson really is. Where is it that you're holding back, you're holding on because you're scared of losing because you actually haven't been in the water before? And then I'm going to encourage you to jump in that water. Jump in that water one way, shape, or form. Take an action today. Take a small action today to test the water so you know what to expect. So you know what to expect if it fails. If you're launching a new product, think about what's the worst case scenario here. What if that product doesn't launch? What's the absolute worst case scenario? chances are it's much, much better than you actually think. The worst case scenario is only worse in our minds. And if we actually rehearse that worst case scenario and really look at it, we actually can eliminate that barrier to entry and let us jump into the water a lot quicker. That's it for me today. As always, go to authorofyourownstory.com where you get more tips and tricks and insights to help you become the author of your own story. And remember, we are launching our Author of Your Own Story University, so if you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, go over there and get on our waiting list, and we look forward to seeing you in there. Have a great day, and remember, be the author of your own story. I hope you enjoyed today's Daily Growth Hacks. Please put your comments right down below, and remember to click subscribe. This way we can ensure that we're delivering these Daily Growth Hacks right to you each and every day. On behalf of the whole team here, remember, go out and be the author of your own story.